welcome back guys. Hello if you are new, and I hope all of you are having a lovely week and doing really well. Thank you so much for tuning into another video on my channel, and I can't believe that we've already finished March. So into April we go, and with that in mind I'm looking at my March favourites. So without further ado, I'm going to kick things off with my first favourite, which as ever is my feature favourite for Mare Cognitum and Solar Paroxysm. So, Mare Cognitum is a one-man death metal, black metal machine. He goes by the name of Jacob Bukowski, I think that's how you say it. Solar Paroxysm quite literally means a emotion of the sun. So basically this album is, and it's very much atmospheric black metal done in the best way possible, really. He released a split with Spectral Law previously, which I think is called Wanderers of the Nine. I'm going to be definitely checking that out. So there's 5 tracks on the album, and none of them are shorter than 10 minutes, which is always a big thumbs up for me. I love this kind of progressive nature of things, you know, where you can kind of really sit with a particular riff, and then it kind of evolves slowly but surely. But for me, what really kind of sold it for me is the solos, and the guitar solos on this album are absolutely amazing, and it just pushes it over into that edge of being really great. But it did take me a while to kind of get into Mare Cognitum. It wasn't kind of necessarily an instantaneous thing, and it might take you a little while, but I do think if you persevere and really listen to this band, there's so much to love about this fantastic album that is Solar Paroxysm. So definitely check that one out. Next up we have Wheel with Resident Human, and this is Finnish progressive metal of the highest caliber. The album is 7 tracks long, and they really kind of get into your psyche. 3 of them are actually 10 minutes long again, so here we go, another big thumbs up. There's obviously a big Tool influence, you know, it's kind of the elephant in the room here, but I definitely think that Resident Human is a step up, and is really going to show kind of the modern prog community that this band are really something to take note of. As it is kind of a prog record, you know, there's a lot to kind of really glean from it when you listen to it. So I've listened to this record a good amount of times now, and even still, I'm kind of discovering new things, which I always really enjoy. But yeah, definitely one to check out, especially if you're a fan of Haken, Tool, Carnival, all those sort of fans. You'll really enjoy it, I reckon. These guys are hailing from London. They're like a London-based death metal band called Celestial Sanctuary, and the album is So Diminished. So this is classic death metal, old school death metal in the vein of Entombed, and also, of course, Bolt Thrower, given the name. There's also hints, I think, of slower Morbid Angel kind of vibes as well, but really kind of neck-snapping, obituary, that sort of vibe. You know? And this is UK death metal at its finest, and I think it's really representing our scene here in London. Big up. Really well. And, you know, the overall kind of meat and potatoes of this is fairly simple. It's very caveman. I think Church Road Records are continuing their upwards trajectory in, you know, upholding the fantastic name of the previous record label, which we won't mention. And this is just another great addition to their roster. So definitely check out Celestial Sanctuary, Soul Diminished. I ride on the highway, I'm down in the So have you ever wondered what AOR meets Borknagar might sound like? Of course you have. So White Void are here to dispel that myth for you. So the band have released this new album called Anti. They are a new band. They do feature members of Borknagar. And in terms of sound, I would say they're very much like you know, that classic AOR bluesy sort of feel. And that's kind of what I really liked about them. There is absolutely fantastic vocals, as you can imagine, given that there's a member of Borknagar in here. The organ and vocals give this slight sense of bluesiness to it, particularly when you hear those like neck pickup style blues guitar solos. And there's quite a lot of prog rock about it, I think. You know, it's very much blues and classic rock, but there's also some prog tinge in there as well. So it's definitely got my vote and deserves a listen. Next up is Brand of Sacrifice and Lifeblood. So Brand of Sacrifice are kind of a band that I reckon would appeal to the likes of, you know, a Carnifex fan or Aversion's Crown. And Brand of Sacrifice are quite interesting. I think, you know, they've got that sort of Rings of Saturn kind of, but then they've also got these massive breakdowns. And I really like some of the use of, like I said, the effects on the guitars and things like that and how it kind of changes the song. So like Vengeance, for example, is a great track and it has this sort of glitchy guitar. It also features a guest spot by Jamie Graham, who is an amazing singer, who is currently in Viscera. He's been in Heart of a Coward, Silosis. The man is a legend. There's also the singers from I Prevail, Shadow of Intent. You know, you've got some amazing performances on this album. I think it's also quite cinematic as well. You know, you've got tracks like Dawn and Perfect World, which kind of create this big sense of kind of like an introduction, and it does create a bit of a world around the kind of album of Lifeblood. But honestly, I didn't really think I would like this as much as I did. Given that I've kind of not grown out of the sort of slammy, more kind of deathcore stuff, but I think I've just kind of steered clear from it for a little bit. So it's nice to kind of remember that this is still here, you know, and it's something that I could definitely kind of dip into. If you're not familiar with the whole Batushka saga, there were two bands, and then there's the sort of true Batushka, and then this other Batushka. This is what is deemed as the true Batushka. So with that in mind, they had an album called Liturgia, I think, which came out last year. So this is quite a quick turnaround, really, if you think about it, but I guess we have been in a pandemic. Each track is called Pismo 1, 2, 3, you know, and Pismo 5 until 6 is really cool, I think. That's kind of the most atmospheric part, and that's always been something that I've kind of vibed with Batushka, is that sense of atmosphere that they bring, and I do really think that's kind of like their unique selling point, really, to be honest. But it's a very solid EP, you know, it kind of will tie us over to until whatever the next album is going to be, and I would highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Batushka. Now, this I was not expecting. I'll be honest, I kind of thought that, you know, from the album cover of this, it was going to be maybe a little bit more trad metal, a little bit more kind of vampire oriented. But what I got was something a lot more surprising and, to be totally honest, better. And they remind me kind of less of King Diamond and more of Insomnium, Amon Amarth, you know, that sort of like melodic death metal, with sort of hints to, I would say, Vader, that kind of thing. But the album kind of roars past. It has a lot of different things going on, really. Lots of different kind of change of pace, which I did like. But to be totally honest, it was just the fact that it was such a surprise. And this album has actually been a really solid listen I've kind of gone back to for a lot of this month. So definitely check that one out. The kind of go-to sort of band I thought of when I heard this was Goatwhore. It's very much kind of like buzzsaw guitar sounds, but then there's a lot more to this. The Son of Byleth, for example, is this nice acoustic interlude, which really took me by surprise. And I think, again, as you can probably tell, I'm a sucker for a lead guitar, and there are some brilliant solos which come through on this album. So I really, really liked that. And that's kind of one of the things that made it sort of stand out to me, to be totally honest. Hook and Torment is a great example of a nice guitar solo. And then you've also got Death Strike, which has a lead line which is really similar to Ashes in Your Mouth, which is actually one of my favourite Megadeth solos. So that's it for me for this month. I hope you've enjoyed my choices. Please do let me know what you think of both the choices and your own stuff. What have you been listening to? I'd love to hear it. And I'll see you next month in April. April, can you believe we're in April? For my next monthly favourites. Take care, my friends, and I'll see you very soon.